Greetings, YouTube. I am a citizen of the internet. I love being on YouTube. I'm active on Instagram, which means I am constantly running into people who are plug ignorant and willing to spread that ignorance as far as possible. And one of the topics that's going to garner the most concentration of ignorance you're probably ever going to find in your life is going to be the topic of vaccines. Um, and somebody did a video not long ago, and I made a comment about uh, vaccines, and this woman got in my face about it, and I started saying, well, are you an immunologist? Have you studied immunology? And she said, and says, because if you haven't, I'm going to listen to the experts who have studied that particular topic. And I said, vaccines are probably one of, if not the most well-researched branches of medical science. I personally would argue that it was the discovery of the vaccine concept and its application to the real world that actually began the very foundations of medical science. That prior to that, it was more folklore. But once we started nailing down how vaccines function and started doing tests to show, yes, in fact, they do function this way, that was science. And medicine is rip-roaring and taken off from there. And one of her responses was incredibly dumbfounding. She said, they've never done a blind test, a double-blind test for vaccines. I stopped for a second. And I let those words kind of marinate in my head for a moment. Because I'm sure that she was repeating something someone else had said, something that she could very likely personally not understand what those words mean. Because if you're going to do a double-blind test, that means you're going to have groups that the researchers don't know which group is which. Okay, first of all, you're going to have two groups of people being tested here. And double-blind because the researchers don't know which it is, and they're just looking at the data collected, and then afterward to figure out who was in which group. And then that is going to get you the cleanest amount of data. Okay? You also want a good sample size. Something like 1,000 up. That's a good sample size for this kind of study. When you get under 1,000, people start getting a little nervous about, is this data valid or something like that. But 1,000 and up, you're golden. But to do that for a vaccine, particularly for children, okay, childhood vaccines, that does mean you're going to have to take some kids. You take 500 over here and you take 500 over there, and you give 500 of those kids actual vaccines, and you give 500 of those kids salt water. And then you sit back and you wait to see who dies. And after they get to beyond the range of the typical exposure rates for those diseases, say whatever, 17, 18 years old, then you gather all the information together, you see how many kids are alive, then you figure out which groups they were because this information has been sequestered somewhere else, and then you can show the efficacy of that vaccine. Now, I've just described to you how you would do that kind of an experiment. Do any of you think maybe that there could be an ethical quandary in doing that particular experiment? That you are deliberately giving children salt water and then letting them be exposed to a potentially lethal disease, all in the name of science? It's kind of like one of the reasons that big tobacco will constantly say they've never been able to prove that tobacco causes cancer or whatever other disease they're involved in. Because to really do that experiment properly, you would then need to have three groups. The first group are people who've never smoked. Okay, that would be me. I would be a good subject for that one. Okay, I'm 60. I've never smoked in my life. Anything. Okay, I'm a good choice for that. Then obviously you should probably start with young kids, not old folks like me. So you start with to 12-year-olds, young kids, never smoked in their lives. Okay, then you take another group of people who have been smoking since they were young kids. Okay, now you got these two groups to test. Okay, and here's the problem: to really do this well, you have to take a third group of people who have never smoked and have them start to smoke. Again, do you see the ethical quandary? You are telling people to become addicted to a lethal substance, one that is going to cause them a laundry list of health issues and is very likely to shorten their lifespan by a decade or more and quite possibly kill them. Also, we can just prove to the big tobacco that tobacco is bad for you. We don't need to do that. We have enough evidence that is outside that particular type of experiment that we don't need to worry about that shit. It's bad for you. Don't smoke. Don't be around kids who aren't smoking. Don't be around kids at all when you're a smoker. Don't expose other people to your addiction. Do it outside, do it away from people, and get the help you need to quit it because it's killing you. It's killing the people around you. Passive smoke is a real thing. Yeah, just don't do that. But by the same token, we can't be doing a double-blind vaccine test on children. That's not going to happen. So, yeah, that was a dumb thing for someone to say. And when I called her on it, I said, you are aware that you've just suggested that scientists should deliberately create an experiment where children will die who didn't have to die just so they could sit back and look at the results. So you'll be happy. Funnily enough, she never responded. So yeah, if somebody starts spouting crap at you, ask them, have you studied immunology? Are you an expert? Do you have a medical degree in this field? And if they say yes, cool. Show me. Show me the proof. Show me the doctoral thesis that you wrote. Show me the papers that you have had published in peer-reviewed journals. Show me your degree. Show me that you're not just spouting bullshit on the internet. Because if you think I'm spouting bullshit on the internet, cool. Go look it up. Go do some research. I'm not going to tell you I'm an expert. I'm not. I'm a fairly well-read layperson. But I'm not claiming to be a medical expert. I'm claiming to know enough that I listen to experts that know more, which is a pretty smart thing to do. When you don't know, you listen to people who do. And with any luck, they'll drag you along and you'll get some knowledge on the way. So yeah, the anti-vaxxers are idiots. And they're dangerous idiots. And they're killing people. And Andrew Wakefield should be in goddamn prison.